I wasn't jealous until the work wife, the flirty texts, and the night she said she loved him. He called me insecure. Crazy. I went to therapy, and then 2 months after, he left me 52 missed calls. I wasn't jealous. That was the story I sold myself, over and over again, like a line rehearsed so well I could say it without blinking. When women flirted with him, I'd smirk like I was in on the joke. When he laughed a little too long, looked a little too closely, I played it cool. I played it confident, because that was who I was. Right? He chose me. That was the anchor. The truth I clung to like it had weight, even when it started to feel lighter than air. He chose me, I told Janine the first time I noticed it. We were sitting at our usual spot at Sips and Saints, halfway through a bottle of wine, and a conversation I didn't want to admit was bothering me. She literally touched his shoulder like 5 times, and he just let her. I mean, I know it's nothing, I trust him, Janine raised her eyebrows, didn't say a word. I kept going, fast, like talking over the feeling could drown it. I know what you're thinking, and I'm not being that girl. I'm not insecure, I'm not. She set her glass down slowly, then looked me dead in the eye. You're too trusting sometimes. That stung, not because she was wrong, but because I'd always worn that as a compliment. I believed trust meant strength. That being unbothered meant maturity. That jealousy was for women who didn't know how to be chosen. But lately, I had started to feel the cracks. Like the time we were out at that new taco spot and his coworker Nina walked up to our table. I didn't know her, had never even heard her name, but the way he lit up when she appeared. The way she gave me a quick, polite smile, then turned her body entirely toward him like I was the plus one. I told myself not to read into it, but my wine tasted sour after that. Babe, don't be weird, he'd said later when I asked how close they were. She's just the work wife. Everyone's got one. Work wife. I laughed it off that night, said something snarky like, well, remind her she's got no health insurance benefits. But in the shower later, while he snored from the bed, I stood under scalding water trying to figure out why I felt like I was the side character in my own relationship. She's just flirty, he said once. She's like that with everyone, he said again. It started to feel like I'd heard those lines before, only never directed at me. I started paying attention after that. Little things. The way he always texted her back fast, no matter how late. The way he didn't correct people when they joked about them being close. The way he never brought me around his office, despite how often I invited him to mine. Still, I told myself I was fine. Jealousy was weakness. I was strong. Right? But the truth was, I wasn't sleeping well. I kept dreaming of being left behind in rooms where everyone was laughing and I was screaming, but no one turned around. I kept replaying the "he chose me" line in my head and finding new ways it didn't hold up. Because yeah, he chose me, but only in private. Only in the way he wanted someone to fall asleep next to, not someone to show off. Not someone to protect, and Janine noticed. She always noticed. You're shrinking, she said once. When I told her about another moment I brushed off, Nina sending him a meme at 1:14 a.m. that said, you're so annoying, I hate how funny you are." He'd read it aloud and laughed. I'd frozen. Janine took a sip of her drink and didn't even pretend to be polite. I'm telling you this because I love you. If I ever texted your boyfriend that late saying dumb, flirty *T and called it a joke, you'd never speak to me again. She's not you. Exactly. I wanted to argue, to defend him, but the words tasted hollow in my throat. I was tired of playing defense for someone who didn't even know the game we were in. Still, I told myself I was fine. Still, I played the part. Because being the cool girlfriend meant never calling it what it was. But the truth was I wasn't jealous. I was ignored, overlooked. Dismissing it as jealousy was easier than admitting what it really was. I didn't feel like his. Not really. Not when Nina knew more about his workday than I did. Not when she made him laugh in ways I hadn't in months. Not when she got to be playful and bold and always excused, while I sat at home pretending I didn't see the writing on the wall. I kept telling myself I was secure, but what I really was silenced. And soon, I'd find out just how loud a joke could be when it's wrapped in a text. It happened at his birthday dinner, not a wild party. Just a group of 10 at his favorite Italian place, Dim lighting, overpriced wine, and waiters who pronounced gnocchi with flair. I organized the whole thing down to the cake. Made the reservation, sent out the invites, even coordinated his sister's flight from out of town. I'd spent the whole day wrapping his gift, rehearsing what I'd say in my toast, trying to remind myself this us was still worth celebrating. It started out fine, better than fine. He was smiling, relaxed, the way he got when he was the center of attention. I watched him light up as people raised glasses to him. I laughed at every joke, even the ones that didn't land. I held his hand under the table. He didn't squeeze back, and then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smirked, didn't try to hide it. Just turned the screen toward his brother and read the message aloud like it was a punchline. "Happy birthday, work hubby. Hope your real wife gives you half as much attention as I would. Dinner, just us next week." He chuckled, shook his head. "Nina's insane." His brother barked a laugh. Janine looked down at her wine glass. His mom raised an eyebrow. I just stared, and in that moment, everything slowed. He thought this was funny. He thought this was fine, and he wanted me to know about it. Not because it was innocent, but because he didn't think I'd do anything. Because I never had. I forced a smile. The kind that hurts your teeth. "Wow," I said. "Bold of her." He waved a hand like he was swatting away a gnat. "She jokes like that with everyone. It's just her sense of humor." Janine's eyes met mine across the table. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. After dessert, when people were paying and lingering and saying their goodbyes, Adam, his brother, leaned in while we waited for the valet. "You okay?" he asked low. I blinked. "What?" That text was a lot. I shrugged. "She's just playful, right?" That's what he said. Adam didn't respond. He just gave me a look I'd seen before. The look you give someone when you know they're lying to themselves and you don't want to press, but God, do you want to shake them? In the car, I tried to joke about it. I said, "If I sent a text like that to my male coworker, you'd lose your mind." He laughed, "Probably, but that's different." "How?" "Because guys don't think like that. You are a guy." He smirked. "Exactly." I didn't know what to say to that. Back at his place, he opened gifts while I sat on the edge of the couch pretending I wasn't seconds away from combusting. He opened mine last. A custom sketch I'd commissioned of the two of us from a photo he said he loved. Framed, signed, wrapped in tissue paper. He looked at it and said, "Damn, that's nice." Then put it on the coffee table and picked up his phone. I sat there while he texted someone back. I didn't ask who. I didn't want to know, but a part of me already did. That night, while he slept, I stared at the ceiling, replaying the way his brother looked at me. The way Janine's lips pressed into a line. The way everyone seemed to see it. Everyone but him. Everyone but me. Because I had spent so long convincing myself I was secure, that I was above jealousy. That trust meant silence. But trust without boundaries isn't trust. It's surrender, and I was running out of things to surrender. I waited 2 days before I said anything. Not because I needed time to process. I didn't. I knew how I felt, but because I was tired. Tired of feeling like the emotional terrorist in my own relationship. Tired of being told I was too much, too sensitive, too needy, when all I'd ever wanted was something simple, respect. So I waited. We were folding laundry when I finally brought it up. The TV was on low. His phone buzzed twice, face down, probably Nina, probably Elise, probably anyone but me. "Hey," I started carefully, picking up one of his hoodies. "Can I ask you something?" He didn't look up. "That text Nina sent you, at your birthday dinner." He paused mid-fold. "What about it?" I swallowed. It didn't sit right with me. He sighed loud, like I'd just dropped a piano on his chest. "I'm not trying to start a fight," I said quickly. I didn't like it. The tone, the joke, the whole work hubby real wife thing, it was public, in front of your family. And you laughed. He dropped the shirt onto the pile. "Jesus, are we still on this?" "I didn't say anything that night because it was your birthday," I said. "But yeah, I've been thinking about it. A lot." He stared at me like I was a stranger. "It was a joke. To you maybe," I said, trying to stay even. But to me, it felt disrespectful. He threw his hands up. "God, why do you always do this?" "Do what?" "Turn everything into a problem," he snapped. "You're always looking for something to be upset about. It's exhausting." I flinched, but not because of his words, because of how familiar they were. We'd been here before. Different argument, same script. I'm not looking for a problem, I said softly. I'm just asking you to see it from my side. You are the problem, he shouted, then immediately pulled back. I didn't mean that, damn, you're projecting, babe. This is your own insecurity talking. There it was, the word, insecure, sharp, weaponized, dismissive. You're making something out of nothing, he continued, calmer now. She's just a friend, you know that, you've met her. Yes. And she was all over you. She's like that with everyone. No, I said, she's like that with you. He grabbed his phone, unlocked it, scrolled for a second. Here, he said, holding it out like evidence in a trial. Look, no sexts. No flirting. It's literally just memes and stupid work **T. I didn't take the phone because I didn't need to read the messages to know what they were missing. Boundaries, respect. The phrase, I have a girlfriend, chill. Instead, I said, you know what bothers me more than the text? What now? That I'm the one explaining myself. He blinked, because you're the one with the problem. No, I said, I'm the one with feelings. And your feelings are overreactions, he said. You can't expect me to change how I talk to my friends just because you're uncomfortable. So my comfort means nothing. He stood, grabbing his folded laundry. This conversation is ridiculous. I stood too. No, what's ridiculous is being told I'm crazy every time I ask you to treat me like I matter. He turned, don't twist this. I'm not twisting anything, I said. You call me insecure every time you cross a line and I notice. Because you are insecure, he spat. You're jealous of every girl who breathes near me. I laughed, but it wasn't funny, it was bitter, broken. I wasn't jealous, I said. I was trusting, there's a difference. He didn't say anything, I grabbed my bag. I'm going to Janine's. You're leaving over this. No, I said. I'm leaving because you keep calling me insane for wanting the bare minimum. His voice followed me down the hall. You're being dramatic, as usual. And just like that, the door closed behind me, not just physically, but emotionally. Because the second he said, insecure, I stopped defending myself. I started listening. To Janine, to my sister. To the little voice inside me that had been screaming this whole time, this isn't what love feels like. He invited me to his office mixer like it was nothing. Low-key thing, he said. Just drinks, apps, networking. You don't have to come if you don't want to. Which meant he didn't want me there. But I went anyway. Because after being called insecure, dramatic, jealous, again, I needed to see it all for myself. I needed to see her. The office was downtown, glass windows and polished smiles. Everyone was already half a drink in when we arrived. He kept a light grip on my waist like a placeholder, not possessive, not proud, just convenient. I spotted her the second we walked in. Nina. Cream blouse, dark red lipstick, gold hoop earrings. Her confidence was effortless and performative at the same time, like someone who was used to being noticed and even more used to being forgiven. She saw us, locked eyes with me for half a second, enough to flash a smile that felt more like a dare, and then completely turned her attention to him. There he is, my favorite person. She breezed across the room and wrapped him in a hug. One of those long, two-squeeze, I know you hugs. I was standing right there. When she pulled back, she finally looked at me again. You must be the girlfriend, she said, dragging out the like it was a technicality. I am, I said, extending my hand. She ignored it, pulled me into a hug instead. You're gorgeous, like unfairly so. I'd be jealous if I didn't adore him. I smiled through clenched teeth. Thanks. He laughed like this was adorable. We mingled for a bit. I met some of his coworkers. Smiled. Nodded. Pretended I didn't notice how many people kept glancing at Nina and him across the room, how effortlessly they orbited each other, like a well-worn dance. At one point, his boss, a middle-aged man with a beer belly and too much cologne, leaned toward me and said, "They're cute, right? We always joke they're like a married couple." I stared at him, sorry. He pointed at them. "Nina and your guy, they're always together, total work spouses." I didn't respond. Because what do you say when someone looks at your relationship and doesn't see you in it? Later, in the car, I asked him about it. Your boss thinks you and Nina are like a married couple. He snorted. Oh my God, he always says that. It's his thing, he thinks it's funny. It's not funny to me. He kept driving. Well, maybe it would be if you weren't so sensitive about her. I'm sensitive because everyone seems to know something I don't. He gripped the wheel tighter. We're just friends, you've met her now. You see what she's like. I saw her touching you every 5 minutes. She's like that with everyone. She's not like that with me. He didn't respond. I looked out the window, heart pounding, mouth dry. I shouldn't have to keep explaining why this makes me uncomfortable, I said. You should care that it does. He sighed. We've been through this already. I turned to him. No, I went through this. You brushed it off. He stayed quiet for so long, I thought he wasn't going to respond at all. Then finally, I'm tired. So was I tired of feeling like a guest in my own relationship. Tired of watching him be emotionally available to everyone but me. Tired of being told my discomfort was the problem instead of the warning. That night back at his place, I got into bed while he stayed in the living room watching reruns. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about Nina's hug, her perfume, her smirk, her calling him her favorite person. I wanted to believe she was just like that. But I'd been just like that before with someone else's boyfriend when I didn't care if I crossed a line, when I thought his girlfriend was boring, when I wanted the thrill of what I almost had. I knew that look, and I knew that laugh, and I knew deep down I was losing, not to Nina, but to the version of him I couldn't reach anymore. It was Sunday morning, pancake morning. One of the rare days he didn't wake up annoyed by the sunlight or scrolling through his phone before I said a word. I was in the kitchen mixing batter. He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, kissed my shoulder like things were easy. Smells good, he said. You always make them fluffy. I smiled. It was the first real warmth we'd had in days. After the mixer, after the boss's married couple comment, after the silent ride home where neither of us reached for the other, I'd needed this. I wanted to believe maybe we'd turned a corner. We sat on the couch with plates on our laps, legs tangled, watching some mindless morning TV show. And then he said it, out of nowhere, no warning. Oh, by the way, Nina told me she loves me. I blinked. What? He chuckled, took a bite of pancake. I know, right? It was wild. We were talking about that annoying project she's on and she just dropped it. She was like, I love you, you know. My fork froze midair. She said that. Yeah, he said casually, like she'd told him the weather. But not like romantically, just like friendship love, probably, I think. You think? He shrugged. It was weird, but I just laughed and changed the subject. I stared at him, waiting for the follow-up, for the part where he told her that wasn't appropriate, that he had a girlfriend, that he'd set a boundary. But all he said was, it's not that deep. It's not that deep, I repeated slowly, like I was trying the phrase on and it didn't fit. She's just expressive, he added. You know how she is. No, I said. I actually don't know how she is, but I know how this sounds. He set his plate down, already annoyed. Babe, don't start. I'm not starting. You told me another woman, your coworker, the one who calls you her work husband, the one who texts you like she's auditioning for the role of minefield, told you she loves you and you're treating it like it's a trivia fact. Because it is. No, it's not. He stood up, grabbed his coffee mug, headed to the sink. It doesn't mean anything. Then why did you tell me? That made him pause. He didn't answer. Because deep down he knew. He told me because he wanted me to hear it, to flinch, to get uncomfortable, because it gave him control. You laughed, I said, still on the couch. You didn't set a boundary, you didn't correct her, you laughed. He turned around. I wasn't going to make it a big deal. Then I will, I snapped, because it is a big deal. What if the roles were reversed? What if a guy at my office told me he loved me and I just brushed it off? He didn't answer. Exactly, I said, you'd lose it. You're blowing this way out of proportion. No, I'm just tired of pretending things are okay when they're not. He rolled his eyes. You know what? Maybe you should talk to someone. This constant jealousy, it's not healthy. I stood up. Oh, don't you dare. I'm serious, he said. You keep making up stories in your head, turning everything into drama. You always need something to be wrong. I trusted you, I said, even when everything in me was screaming not to. And now you're standing there, acting like I'm crazy because I don't want to be in a 3-person relationship with your coworker. He stared at me, jaw clenched. I grabbed my phone, texted my cousin Eric, who was in town for the weekend, asked him to meet me. An hour later, we were at a coffee shop. I told him everything. The birthday dinner, the text, the hug at the mixer, the married couple comment, and now this. He didn't interrupt, didn't laugh. Just sipped his drink slowly and said, "That's not normal, right?" I almost cried right then. Because, he continued, that's not just a lack of boundaries. That's emotional infidelity dressed up as banter. I nodded slowly. I keep thinking I'm overreacting. You're not. He says I'm insecure. You're not. He says I'm making it up. You're not. He leaned forward. You've been taught to mistrust your own alarm bells. That's how people like him get away with things they'd never tolerate themselves. I stared at my coffee. I don't want to be this girl, I whispered. The one who checks his phone, the one who second guesses, the one who cries over breakfast. Eric tilted his head. You're not that girl. You're the girl who stayed too long trying to be the exception, and now you're finally waking up. I didn't speak, because the truth was Eric was right. And so was the voice inside me that had been yelling all along. Janine didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't have to. I walked into her apartment that night, dropped my bag, and sat on the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. She took one look at me and grabbed a bottle of wine. No questions, no judgment, just silence, until I finally said it. He told me Nina said she loved him. Janine blinked once. What? I nodded, over pancakes. Like it was a fun fact. She poured 2 glasses and handed one to me without breaking eye contact. And then what? She asked. I told him it bothered me. He said I was overreacting, that I'm insecure, that I should talk to someone. Janine leaned back, kicked her legs out in front of her. So, let me get this straight. A woman flirts with him constantly, calls him her work wife, crosses every line imaginable, and tells him she loves him, and somehow you're the one who needs help. I didn't respond, because saying it out loud sounded unhinged. But that was the thing, he was so calm when he said it, so sure. Like of course I was the problem. I feel like I've been brainwashed, I said quietly. Like I've been living in his version of reality for so long that I don't know how to trust my own voice. Janine looked at me, really looked at me. The kind of stare that disarms you not because it's harsh, but because it sees everything. You're always defending him, she said. Even now, you're still trying to explain him instead of letting yourself be angry. I'm tired, I admitted. Of fighting, of crying, of walking on eggshells. I just keep hoping he'll wake up and realize I'm worth the bare minimum. Janine shook her head. You're not asking for the bare minimum, you're asking for basic respect. And he's giving you gaslighting in return. Later that night, my sister called. She asked how I was, I lied, said I was just busy, but she knew. You've been quiet, she said. Is everything okay with him? I hesitated, it's been hard. She didn't press, just said, I don't like who you are when he's around. That cut deeper than any fight, because she didn't say he was bad. She said I changed. She said I disappeared. And the worst part, she was right. I had become smaller, more anxious. I filtered every sentence before I said it. I minimized my wins so he wouldn't feel insecure. I dimmed myself so he could shine. And the people who loved me, they all saw it, everyone but me. I went home and looked at myself in the mirror. Puffy eyes, flat tone. A smile that hadn't reached my eyes in months. Who was this girl? When did I become someone who needed permission to feel hurt? When did I start writing off disrespect as just the way he is? I opened my phone and scrolled through old photos of us. Not the curated Instagram ones, the real ones. The ones I used to take when he wasn't looking. Smiling in the passenger seat, laughing on the couch. There were fewer of me. And the ones that did exist, I wasn't smiling. I looked quiet, uncertain, like I already knew what I didn't want to admit. I set the phone down and crawled into bed fully clothed. Janine's voice echoed in my head. You're always defending him. My sisters, I don't like who you are when he's around. Eric's, you're the girl who stayed too long trying to be the exception. And finally, my own, he told me another woman loves him and I made him breakfast. Everyone saw it. Everyone felt it, everyone but me. But that was about to change. Because once you finally let the truth in, it doesn't leave. It doesn't whisper anymore. It roars. I always said I'd never go through someone's phone. That was the line, the one boundary I thought defined me, the one thing that separated crazy from reasonable. If you had to check, it was already over. That's what I believed. Until one night, I didn't. It was almost midnight. He'd fallen asleep on the couch after scrolling through reels, the TV still playing a show we weren't really watching. I sat beside him, staring blankly, wondering how I got here, afraid to ask questions, afraid not to. His phone buzzed, not once. 3 times, all from the same name, Elise. I stared at the screen, pulse climbing. I didn't even know he still talked to Elise. I thought she was someone he barely worked with 6 months ago. Thought she'd moved. I waited for the notifications to disappear. But they didn't. They just kept coming. I told myself I wouldn't open them. I told myself I was stronger than that. But when I looked over at him, peacefully asleep, unaware, unbothered, something in me snapped. I picked up the phone, no passcode. He hadn't changed it. Maybe he didn't think he had anything to hide, or maybe he just assumed I wouldn't look. He was wrong. The messages weren't long, but they didn't have to be. Elise, miss you. Hope you're not too busy for me next time. Elise, that smile of yours should be illegal. Elise, still dreaming about that night lol. I stopped breathing, scrolled up. Most of the messages were tame, boring, work talk, inside jokes. Then suddenly, 2 months ago, it shifted. One night, one joke, one accidental compliment, and the entire tone changed. He never told me, never mentioned her again, and he never told her to stop. He didn't flirt back exactly, but he didn't shut it down either. He didn't draw a line because he wanted it open. My hands were shaking. I dropped the phone on the coffee table and rushed into the bathroom. I didn't cry right away. I sat on the edge of the tub, staring at the floor tiles, mouth dry, lungs shallow. I felt disgusting. Not because I snooped, but because I had waited too. Because I had gaslit myself for months, swallowing every instinct just to avoid being labeled jealous. But now the truth was in my lap, and it didn't feel like closure. It felt like grief. I texted Zara, just one word, "Can I come over?" She replied within seconds, "Always." I grabbed my bag, my keys, and left. I didn't wake him. Didn't leave a note, didn't even put the phone back in his hand. I walked out like a shadow, silent, quick, invisible. When Zara opened the door, she was in pajamas, makeup-free, holding a blanket like she already knew what I needed. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. I collapsed on her couch, curled up, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself sob. Ugly, shaking, uncontrollable sobs. She held me like a sister, like a witness, like someone who had waited long enough for me to stop pretending. When I finally calmed down, I whispered, I checked his phone. She didn't flinch, didn't scold, didn't say she was disappointed. Instead, she asked softly, "What did you find?" Elise. Her mouth tightened. Flirty, crossing lines, he never stopped her. Zara nodded. "And you?" "I just ran," I said. I didn't say a word. "I just left." She tucked the blanket tighter around me. "Good." I let the silence hang. Then I admitted, "I hate who I've become. I'm this girl now. I snoop, I spiral. I don't trust the person I love." Zara touched my hand. "No. You became the girl who stayed too long, who gave too many chances, who tried too hard to be chill when she should have been safe." I looked at her, her voice was calm, clear. "You're not crazy," she said. "You're exhausted." That word again. It hit harder than any insult he'd ever thrown, because she was right. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't insecure. I was drained. From carrying the weight of 2 people's loyalty on my back while he played in the gray areas of emotional cheating. The next morning, I looked at myself in Zara's bathroom mirror. Puffy face, red eyes, a knot in my throat the size of a fist, but also clarity, not anger, not revenge, just truth. And I was finally ready to stop running from it. I didn't plan to go. I stared at the invitation text for his dad's birthday dinner for hours. "Casual thing," he said. "Just family." He followed it up with, "Would mean a lot if you came." I almost didn't respond. Almost let silence do the talking. But a part of me, some stubborn, bruised, not yet done part, needed to see it. Needed one more look at how he wore the mask in front of people who'd known him his whole life. So I said yes. I didn't tell Zara, didn't tell Janine. They would have begged me not to go, told me I didn't need to prove anything. But it wasn't about proving anymore. It was about confirming. When I walked into his parents' house, everything smelled like nostalgia and denial. Warm casserole in the oven, framed family photos on every wall, polite laughter echoing from the kitchen. He greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. Light, airy, almost rehearsed. His mom hugged me like she wasn't sure if she should. His dad offered a distracted, "Hey, kiddo." His sister barely looked up from her phone. I used to feel welcome here. Now I felt studied, like a cast member who'd overstayed her contract. Dinner started fine. Stories, jokes, his mom bragging about a neighbor's wedding, his dad telling the same college prank story for the fourth time, and then it happened. Someone his cousin maybe brought up work. "How's your office wife?" he asked with a wink. The entire table laughed, except me, and his mother. I froze. "So did she?" He smirked. "Still the same. Nina never shuts up, but she keeps me sane." Another laugh, a plate clinked. My fork stayed frozen in midair, and then, before I could stop myself, I said it. "Still calling her your wife, huh?" The table went quiet. He looked at me sharply. "Babe." "No, seriously," I said, keeping my voice even. "Did she say she loves you again this week, or was that just a birthday special?" His jaw tightened. His mom looked away. His dad cleared his throat. "Maybe not the time." "No," I said, louder now. "It is the time. Because I'm tired of smiling through dinners while everyone in this family pretends they don't see what's happening." He slammed his hand on the table. "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm asking why I've become the invisible one in my own relationship," I snapped. "Why your coworker gets your laughs, your secrets, your private jokes, and I get gaslit." "Because you are insecure," he shouted. "You twist everything." His mom winced. His sister looked away. "I'm not insecure," I said. "I'm exhausted." "You're ruining my dad's birthday." "No," I said. "You ruined us months ago. I'm just done pretending." His mother finally spoke. Quiet, calm, she's not wrong. The room froze again. He looked at her stunned. "What?" "You flirt with that girl in front of everyone," she said, her voice firm. "You've embarrassed her long enough." "I haven't done anything," he protested. His dad stood. "We're done here." Chairs scraped, plates shifted. Conversation dissolved into chaos. I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the door. He didn't follow, didn't call out, didn't try. And that told me everything I needed to know. I got into my car, closed the door, and exhaled like I hadn't breathed in months. Not because it was over, but because I finally was. I didn't cry when I left his parents' house. I didn't cry in the car. Not even when I got home and sat on the edge of my bed, shoes still on, heart thudding in my chest like it was trying to run from my body. But the next morning, when Janine opened her door and saw me standing there with puffy eyes and a voice like gravel, I crumbled. Right into her arms, right into the only place that still felt safe. I told her everything. Every word from dinner, every silence that screamed. The way his mom had said, "She's not wrong," like even she was exhausted by him. When I finally stopped shaking, Janine pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. "I'm booking you a therapy session," she said. "You don't have to go, but I'm giving you the choice." I didn't resist, didn't fight it, didn't say I'd think about it, I just nodded. Because I was done pretending I could untangle myself from this mess on my own. Maya's office smelled like lavender and rain. She had one of those voices, soft but firm, like she wasn't going to let me lie to myself, no matter how politely I tried. I told her I didn't know where to start, so she asked, "Where does it hurt the most?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Everywhere." She nodded like that made sense. "Then let's start with what you thought love was supposed to feel like." I froze. What had I thought? I told her I thought love was choosing someone, showing up, trusting them even when it's hard. She asked, "And what did you get?" I looked down at my hands. I got gaslit. I got called dramatic. I got left alone in my feelings while he called another woman his work wife. She wrote something down, then said gently, "That's not jealousy. That's grief." I blinked. Grief. You're mourning the version of him you believed in, the one he sold you. And now that it's crumbling, your mind is fighting to make it make sense. That landed like a stone. I stared at the tissue in my lap. I kept defending him, even when I was the one bleeding. Maya tilted her head. "Why do you think you did that?" I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, "Because if I admitted he was wrong, I had to admit I stayed anyway." She nodded. "That's not weakness. That's survival, but you don't have to survive anymore. You get to heal." That word hit me harder than grief ever did, because I didn't know what healing looked like. Not really. I'd spent so long reacting, managing, contorting myself to stay lovable, that the idea of just being okay felt like fiction. But in that beige office, under soft light and the scent of lavender, something cracked open. Not my heart, my silence. For weeks, I kept going. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m., I sat in that same chair and peeled back one more layer. Maya never judged. She never rushed. She just kept asking the right questions. Why did you stop calling it cheating when it hurt just the same? Why do you believe discomfort is your responsibility to fix? When did your love start sounding like an apology? The answers gutted me, but they also stitched something back together. Because little by little, I started hearing my own voice again. The one that didn't flinch every time my phone buzzed. The one that didn't edit herself to sound less needy. The one that remembered how to laugh without asking for permission. I stopped making excuses for him, even in my head. I stopped checking his socials. Stopped rehearsing fake conversations in the shower. Stopped hoping for an apology that would never come. And one afternoon, after a particularly heavy session, Maya asked, "Do you still believe it was your fault?" I looked her in the eye. "No," I said, "I believe I was erased." She smiled, "Good. Because now we begin the rewrite." It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no final blow-up, no grand, cinematic exit, just a soft, quiet moment that landed like a thunderclap. He was scrolling through TikTok on the couch while I sat at the dining table, laptop open, half listening to his laughter echo through the room like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't walked out of his parents' house 3 weeks ago. Like I hadn't left my dignity trailing behind me for months just trying to be seen. I had just finished my 4th therapy session with Maya. We talked about closure, or the lack of it. She'd said, sometimes, closure is choosing not to reopen the wound just because someone else doesn't think it's healed. I closed my laptop, stood up, walked over, and said, "I think we should break up." He didn't look up immediately. Didn't pause the video, didn't even blink. When he finally did, he smirked. "What? Because of the Nina thing again?" "No," I said calm, "because of everything." He scoffed, "You're being ridiculous." There it was, my favorite word. The one he liked to throw at me like confetti, distracting, dismissive, shiny enough to make me question my reality. But not anymore. I sat down across from him. "I'm not asking, I'm telling you. I'm done." He finally took his feet off the coffee table. "You're seriously ending this over some harmless texts? A few dumb jokes?" "No," I said. "I'm ending it because you made me feel like I was hard to love every time I asked you to respect me." He opened his mouth, but I kept going. "I'm ending it because you invited me into a relationship, and then left me standing alone in it while you flirted your way through your work week." He rolled his eyes. "Jesus, you sound like a self-help book." I smiled, genuinely smiled. "Thank you." That irritated him. He leaned forward. "You know what your problem is? You never let anything go. You love playing the victim. That used to wound me. Now it just confirmed everything Maya said. Projection is a mirror." And he hated the reflection. I stood. I already packed most of my stuff. He stood too. "You're serious?" "Yes." "So that's it. After everything we've been through." "You mean after everything I tolerated?" He didn't respond. I grabbed my bag, turned toward the door. And then, in the most predictable move of all time, he said, "You're gonna regret this." I turned back, looked him dead in the eye. "I already regret not doing it sooner." Then I left. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt hollow. Like closing the door on a room that once held every version of myself, but now was just a museum of silence, shame, and second chances that were never going to be enough. 2 days later, he posted a story. A blurry photo at a bar. A girl sitting beside him, half her face in the frame. Long hair, red nails, Elise, no caption, just a beer emoji. I stared at it for a second, then clicked out. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't surprise me. Maya had warned me this might happen. "They rarely sit with their consequences," she said. "They run, because sitting with what they've done would require the one thing they're terrified of: self-awareness." Janine texted me, "Is that Elise, the one from the DMS?" I replied, "Yep." She didn't ask how I was. She didn't have to. She already knew I was done. I didn't rage, didn't message him, didn't even block him. I let him watch me disappear. That was the real punishment. Not revenge, just distance. He posted 2 more stories that week, both with Elise, one at brunch, one in a car with music blasting. Each one felt curated, a digital middle finger. A look how fast I moved on performance. But I didn't flinch. Because when someone replaces you that quickly, it's not a love story. It's damage control. And I'd already done enough of that for both of us. Breakups aren't just about leaving. They're about staying gone. That's the part no one warns you about. You brace yourself for the goodbye, for the door slam, the suitcase, the one last look. But no one tells you how hard it is to not go back. Not when the nights stretch long, not when memory softens the edges of cruelty, not when you start to wonder if you were just too much. The first trigger hit 3 days after I left. I was scrolling through Instagram, harmless, autopilot, and there he was, not even on his own profile. Someone else had tagged him. A group shot. Elise sitting right beside him, her hand resting lightly on his thigh like it belonged there. I froze, not because it hurt, but because it almost didn't. It was the almost that scared me. That dangerous, slippery place between rage and nostalgia where you start rewriting history just to make it bearable. I stared at the photo until the app refreshed and the post disappeared. And then I deleted Instagram. Zara called me 5 minutes later. "You okay?" she asked. "I think I need to disappear for a bit." She didn't ask why. She just said, "Want me to do it with you?" And just like that, we were both offline. We made a pact, no social media, no peeking, no lurking. I deleted TikTok. She locked me out of my Facebook. We treated my healing like a recovery program, complete with detox, withdrawal, and emergency support texts at 2 a.m., but the second trigger? That one snuck up quieter. I was at the grocery store, just trying to buy milk. And there it was, his shampoo. That stupid charcoal one he swore made his hair grow faster. I stood there, holding my basket, staring at it like it had whispered my name. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. I wasn't crying. But I wanted to scream. Instead, I walked out without buying anything. Texted Maya the second I got into the car. She called me back in minutes. "It's okay," she said. "Your body remembers, even when your mind tries to forget." "I was doing so well," I said. She corrected me gently. "You are doing well. Triggers don't mean you're failing. They mean you're feeling, and that's progress." I wanted to believe her, but I still sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching the world move while I couldn't. Later that night, I opened my notes app and started writing down the things I missed. Not because I wanted him back, but because I needed to confront what still lingered. His laugh when I snorted mid-laugh. The way he kissed my forehead without thinking. The stupid inside joke about squirrels in trench coats. The way he knew I hated ice in my water. I cried over that one. Then I made another list. Things I don't miss. The way he ignored me in public. The way he downplayed my achievements. The way he made me feel crazy every time I asked for reassurance. The way he never once asked, "How can I love you better?" That list was longer. Janine came over 2 days later with Thai food and a bottle of wine. "I brought comfort carbs," she said. "Also, I blocked him for you. You're welcome." I laughed, the first real one in a while. She told me she'd seen Elise's story, that he was posting more than usual, trying too hard. "Men don't process breakups," she said. "They replace them fast, loud, messy." "I'm trying not to care." "You're allowed to care," she said. "You just don't have to respond." I nodded. That became my new mantra, you can care. Just don't go back, because caring meant I had a heart, but going back meant I'd forgotten what broke it. The third trigger, a text from an unknown number. "Thinking about you, hope you're okay." No name, no context, but I knew it was him. I didn't reply, didn't delete it either, just left it there. Unread. Like a splinter I was finally willing to feel without removing, because healing isn't about pretending you were never hurt. It's about knowing you were and still choosing to rise. It's strange how silence can go from terrifying to holy. The first few days after I walked away, the quiet felt sharp, like absence had teeth. The lack of his messages, his voice, his dumb playlists echoing from the bathroom, it all pressed in like a punishment. But now the silence feels like air, clean, spacious. Mine, it's been 2 months, 61 days without hearing his voice, without seeing his name flash across my screen, without playing emotional Jenga every time I dared to say how I felt. Maya said I'd hit a shift. I didn't believe her at first, but she was right. It started small. I stopped waking up with that tight knot in my chest. I went 3 whole days without checking mutual friends' stories. I sat through dinner with Janine and Zara and actually laughed, not the polite kind, not the I'm fine kind. Real, belly-deep, eyes-watering laughter that reminded me of the girl I used to be. The one who existed before him. And then came the real victory. I passed by a girl who looked just like Elise at a bookstore and didn't flinch. I just kept walking, my body didn't seize, my breath didn't catch, I was okay. I was really actually okay. Not healed, not over it, but no longer drowning. I started journaling again, not the messy spiral kind either. The intentional kind. Gratitude lists, daily intentions. Affirmations that I used to think were cheesy but now feel like armor. I am not hard to love. I am not dramatic for needing respect. I am not weak for missing him. I am strong for not returning. Maya and I talked about all of it. She said my nervous system was recalibrating, that I'd spent so long being hyper-aware of danger that peace felt foreign. I told her it was like finally taking off a backpack I forgot I was wearing. I feel taller, I said. She smiled. That's your spine coming back. One night, I took myself out to dinner, not as an act of rebellion, not to post about it, just because I wanted to try. I sat at a corner table by the window, ordered wine, and read a book between bites of pasta. No one texted to ask where I was. No one rolled their eyes when I asked for a second glass. No one dismissed me. It was the quietest meal I'd had in years, and maybe the most peaceful, but healing isn't linear. And sometimes, the silence still cuts. Like when I catch myself wanting to send him something funny I saw, or when I remember a moment that once made me feel loved before I knew better. But I let those moments come. Let them sting. Let them pass. Because Maya said if I keep pretending the pain never happened, I'll stay stuck in it forever. You're not here to erase him, she said. You're here to remember you. And I'm starting to. I'm remembering the girl who used to walk into rooms without shrinking, the one who used to make bold decisions without waiting for permission, the one who used to trust her own voice. She's coming back. Slowly. Bravely. And one day soon, I think I'll look in the mirror and recognize her again. It started with one buzz, then two, then a storm. At first, I thought it was a glitch, my phone lighting up like it had caught fire, one call after another, no pause, no breath. I was standing in line at the coffee shop, earbuds in, playlist soft in the background, about to order a matcha when I felt it. The energy, panic. I pulled my phone out slowly. 4 missed calls, then 8, then 13. All from an unknown number. Then it changed. Him, the name I hadn't seen on my screen in over 2 months. 20 missed calls, my throat tightened. The line moved forward. Someone behind me sighed impatiently. I stepped out, chest tight, the sun suddenly too bright, my heart hammering like it was trying to outrun something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. 28, 34, 41. My hand shook as I turned the phone over, face down, like I could mute reality if I just stopped looking. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the city blur around me. The coffee shop door opened and closed behind me, people laughing, chatting, living, but I wasn't there. I was somewhere between then and now, 52 missed calls, and 1 message from his sister. He's spiraling. I think he finally gets it. I stared at the screen. Not a single part of me wanted to reply, but my body betrayed me, my thumb hovered, my chest ached, because this was what I used to dream of, this moment, this sudden realization. The part in the movie where the guy finally sees what he lost and comes running. But in real life, it's never that neat, it's too late. Too hollow, too selfish. This wasn't about love. It was about losing control. And he'd finally realized I was no longer waiting for him to choose me. I sat on a bench near the park, phone in my lap, and let myself feel the full weight of it. The silence wasn't an absence anymore. It was a boundary. And now that he couldn't cross it, he was unraveling. I opened the voicemail, half curious, half numb. His voice was cracked. Rushed. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I didn't see it until now, but please, can we just talk? I'm sorry. I miss you, I'm not okay. I listened once, then played it again, and then again. Not because I was moved, but because I wanted to hear how someone could finally say sorry without once saying what they were sorry for. Maya always said clarity doesn't just come from answers. It comes from knowing which questions you never needed to ask. And suddenly, I had nothing left to ask him. I walked home. No music, no distractions. Just the city and my feet, and the knowledge that the thing I once begged for, the apology, the realization, the 3M regret, had arrived. And it meant nothing. Because healing had made me unrecognizable to the version of myself who would have dropped everything just to hear him say my name like that. I let the phone keep buzzing, not because I was playing games, but because I was finally out of reach. We met at a cafe, neutral ground, public enough to keep it civil, private enough for truth. I picked the spot, sent him the location. One message, no warmth, no emojis, just an address and a time. He replied within minutes, "I'll be there." Of course he would. He always showed up once the damage was done, once the silence got too loud, once the leash snapped and he realized I'd stopped circling his version of love. I wore black, not for drama, for clarity. I didn't want to be mistaken for someone soft or nostalgic. I wanted to look like the woman who left, not the girl who used to wait. He walked in looking like regret wrapped in cologne, hair unkempt, eyes heavy, hoodie wrinkled like he hadn't slept, or maybe he'd been rehearsing this. I wouldn't know. I no longer cared to guess what kept him up at night. He sat down slowly. No hug, no "you look good." Just silence, tension, breathing. "Thank you for coming," he said. I didn't respond. I let him sweat. "I've been calling," he continued. I noticed. He flinched but nodded. I didn't know how to fix it." "You still don't." His mouth parted like he wanted to argue, but I held up a hand. "I'm not here to rehash. I'm not here to soothe your guilt. You asked for this meeting, so say what you came to say." He looked down, picked at the sleeve of his hoodie. "I miss you." I stayed still. I didn't realize how much I'd taken for granted. Until you left, I thought we were fine. Just a rough patch. I tilted my head. A rough patch. He blinked. "I know it was more than that, now I do." "What was it then?" He paused. "The flirty texts, Nina, Elise, I was stupid. I should have shut it all down. I liked the attention. But I never stopped loving you." "You never started," I said. That got him. I leaned in. "You loved the version of me who made your life easier, who laughed off disrespect, who tucked her feelings into pretty sentences and called it patience. That's not love. That's convenience." His voice cracked. "I didn't mean to make you feel invisible," I said. "You didn't make me feel anything. I was invisible. In every room where Nina touched your arm. In every group chat where Elise sent a heart. In every conversation you never had with me because you were too busy being someone else's emotional affair." He looked away, jaw clenched. "I kept waiting," I continued, "for you to see me, to fight for me, but all you ever did was gaslight me, make me doubt what I saw, what I heard, what I knew." "I was wrong," he whispered. "I see that now." I sat back. "Good. But that doesn't change what you did. And it doesn't change what I survived." He swallowed hard. "Is there anything I can do?" I looked at him for a long time, really looked. At the man I'd once imagined a future with, the man I cried over. Cooked for, defended, betrayed myself for. He wasn't a villain. But he wasn't a victim either. And I had finally stopped being collateral. I leaned forward, rested my elbows on the table and said, "You keep saying I got jealous. But I didn't. I got erased. And I spent months trying to make you notice before I realized I had to notice myself." He said nothing. What could he say? I stood up. "Take care of yourself." He grabbed his coffee like he wanted to hold something steady. "You really done?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "You just finally noticed I was gone, but I've been leaving for a long time." And then I walked out. No tears, no second glances, no closure ceremony, because I didn't need him to understand what he lost. I needed me to understand what I gained. And this time I did. It's been 6 months. Half a year since the night I walked away. Since I told him the words that had been burning in my chest for months. I didn't become jealous. I became invisible. I think about that sentence often. Not because I regret it, but because it still feels like the most honest thing I've ever said. I'm not haunted anymore. Not by Elise, not by Nina, not by what I could have done differently or what might have happened if I'd swallowed one more feeling to keep the peace. The version of me who needed his approval, she's gone. And I don't miss her. Because here's what I know now. I know that trust isn't blind. It's earned, sustained, nourished. I know that when someone dismisses your boundaries as drama, they're not looking to love you, they're looking to manage you. I know that respect is quiet. It's not performative. It doesn't need applause. And it certainly doesn't flirt with coworkers behind your back while calling you insecure. I know that healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens on random Tuesdays when you don't spiral after seeing someone who looks like him. It happens in the grocery store aisle when you reach for your favorite cereal and realize he never once asked what your favorite anything was. It happens when your friend sends you a meme at 2 a.m. and your first reaction isn't anxiety, but joy. I know now that closure isn't something you get from the person who hurt you. Closure is a decision, a quiet one, it sounds like. I don't need one more conversation to explain why I'm enough. It looks like blocking the number not to punish, but to protect peace. It feels like freedom in your lungs, laughter in your chest, space in your heart where grief used to sit like a squatter. I still go to therapy, not because I'm broken, but because I'm worth maintaining. Maya once told me, the goal isn't to find someone who never triggers you. It's to become someone who trusts herself enough to know when something isn't love. I wrote that down, I read it every week, and slowly my body started believing it. Even my reflection changed. My posture straightened, my voice sharpened. My softness stayed, but not for everyone, just for the people who treat it with care. Last weekend, I went to brunch with Janine and Zara. Bottomless mimosas, chaotic laughter, a playlist that somehow knew exactly what kind of day it was. And at one point, Janine looked at me, narrowed her eyes, and said, "You're glowing." I laughed, "It's the lighting." "No," she said, "it's you." And she was right. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't performing happiness. I wasn't faking okay. I was okay. I was whole. Not because I found someone else to love me, but because I stopped waiting for someone else to do what I was always capable of. I loved myself enough to walk away. I loved myself enough to stay gone. And I loved myself enough to tell the truth, even when it hurt. I wasn't jealous. I was erased. Not anymore, now I take up space. Loudly, joyfully, without apology. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.